today I want to share a wonderful conversation that I had recently with Matt Garrett. Matt speaks online about initially non-duality and awakening and this whole process that I've started speaking more about. Nowadays, Matt speaks a lot more about advanced topics, just really whatever resonates with him. And yeah, so some of it can seem quite spiritual, maybe if you check out his content, but it's always, Matt's stuff always pushes me to expand my own perspectives and fill in where are my limiting beliefs getting challenged, because there's something that seems that it doesn't align with my current paradigms or anything like that. Matt's been a really helpful guide for me along this path. I've been following his content for quite a while now. I initially found his work through Angelo, and Angelo recommended him as a teacher for me, and I've just been following Matt for a while. And one thing that's always stood out for me about Matt's expression is how in touch he is with the heart. It always comes through for me just talking with Matt and watching his content. No matter what the topic of conversation is, sure, we're all going to have different ways of expressing things and different areas we want to focus on. But I've always found Matt's heart expression is beautiful. Always so much love coming through there. So it was so much fun to have this opportunity to just have a very chilled discussion and chat with Matt and to see what came from it. We covered quite a few different topics. It's not only about health much at all, much more about the deeper spiritual aspect of all these paths, the integration of masculine and feminine energies. We spoke a lot about success and how does success fit into the path of awakening and spirituality, and balancing, the need for surrender with the need for action, and how those two things actually really align in the end. And it's always about some fixation that we get stuck in. The mind always wants to find somewhere to rest, some paradigm to cling to. And I was really excited to have this conversation with Matt, because for me, he's one of the few people online that are really interested in breaking down all paradigms, not in an extreme way, but just willing to kind of keep pushing the limits of expression and this pathway. So we cover a lot in this conversation, and maybe some of it doesn't resonate with a lot of people. I could totally understand that, but for me it was really just a wonderful chat to have, and I'm quite happy to share it and see if it resonates with anybody else who's going down this path, and take from it what you can. But yeah, Matt does one-on-one work with people, and I can highly recommend his work. I'll put his links in the description, and it was such a joy, and I hope it's useful for people, or you find it interesting. So without further ado, Matt Garrett. One of the things I wanted to touch on with you is one of your recent videos. I quite liked your expression of it. You were talking about mastery, and you were like, if you're a master of one thing, it's surrender. And I thought maybe we could unpack that a little bit, because I feel like no matter where somebody is at on this path, whether it's still very early on dealing with a lot of relative issues, or later on kind of exploring the more non-dual stuff, surrender is relevant throughout. So if you could maybe share some of your maybe advice, or just your own approach to surrender, especially when things are feeling challenging, and maybe what are some of the things that you've learned the most about surrender, because it does feel like quite an art.
Yeah, well, first of all, surrender is almost the only place all of us can meet where there's, no hierarchy, it's really a place that finds you, isn't it? When all of your
Mm,
ploys, your protective mechanisms, and your attacks on how you're going to form some kind of self-image, whether that's, a healthy future, whether that's the self-image that you want to protect, whether that's your career, your money, there's a certain point where if you're holding your life together in a way that is attempting to sustain this almost invincibility, right? This
Mm,
need to protect yourself from the outside world and somehow gain something over it and become something that you're not. There's this kind of situation that you'll find yourself in a lot that it's almost as if you don't let go, you'll be backed into a corner to finally just basically give in to really you're not surrendering even the power that you are and the light that you are. You're surrendering everything that you hold on to that isn't serving you anymore. Like
mm,
surrender of everything that's heavy, right? Like people
yeah.
tend to think of surrender from like the war times or these things where surrender is a bad thing. And we have this completely distorted view of like a masculine need to always be strong and to be like our criteria for success is so warped. But
Mm,
surrender is like a final giving up of those parts of yourself that are still looking to basically resist whatever it is in your heart that wants to be seen and the sole purpose, whether that's how you perceive yourself, how you're relating to your experience, the current challenges you're going through. Surrender's like step one. But many people fall into surrender without action or surrender without then, well, what's left after I surrender these negative beliefs, these heaviness, these identities? And I just see
mm,
really surrender as like a foundation which everything else
mm,
has chance to come through. But especially in the male psyche, I can only really speak from my experience, there's this point where you almost surrender into the feminine. Like
mm,
it's like the male psyche wants focus, it wants control, and it wants to have control over its experience, whether
mm,
it's the body, the situation, relationships, friends. And you start to realize that control doesn't work. Like
mm,
only intention and attitude and willingness to open and crack open works. And
mm,
it's almost as if you can have direction and focus, but without that surrender of basically, having your intentions, your wishes, but then letting them go, right? Letting go of
mm,
control and just coming into that. So I think
mm,
for me, I really wanted to hammer home this balance of surrender that isn't like a weakness. It's
mm.
really willingness to let go of your insistence on experience is like such a trait that many people maybe don't find until they're really backed into a corner where they have to just basically break down.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's so true. It's like often that entry point. If we're that type that fights so much and doesn't surrender, then you'll often, I don't know, life will put you into that corner where you have no choice but to surrender. And obviously, from that perspective, it can feel like things are going so wrong. But I guess for me, also speaking from my own experience, like that was where I like surrender found me, like you said, it's like I didn't even know what surrender was until that was the only option available in my experience because that masculine element of control was leading to so much suffering. Um, and I feel like, yeah, we often need to see the limits of that perspective before we open up to the other side. Um, and then I guess what comes to mind is what you say about like the meeting point between intention and surrender. Because speaking from my own experience, like once life opened me up to surrender, it was a whole different way of living for a while. Like, okay, I'm not in charge. Everything's just kind of happening on its own. But for me, that became a fixation in like the feminine surrender too much. And I actually found a lot of your stuff quite helpful there. Is at some point you started speaking about integrating the masculine more, and that was like pulled me out of that fixation. And then it was like intention and surrender, and that's almost like an even more true form of surrender because you're surrendering into action, if that makes sense. You're putting yourself out there, and that feels like more vulnerable, like having an intention for something to happen and then surrendering into how it actually plays out. It's like it's not an expectation, it's like an intention, and then yeah, then who knows where it's going from there. I feel like those two are so key together.
Yeah. Can you see how there is such a uh, temptation to open to surrender and then allow that to engulf you into basically a bypass of basically seeing it as I see it, as we all have this sleeping giant within us, right? That
Mm,
knows that it's dormant and it knows it has so much to bring to the world, whether that's a big role or a small role, whether you love to create, whether you love to just do engineering or make videos. The surrender is basically of everything that is keeping this inner light contained.
mm,
And, don't express yourself too much. Don't start that because you might fail. I
mm,
keep coming back to this sleeping giant because the surrender is just kind of allowing it to kind of have its room, and then it wants to come through. And I remember this quote. It said, "Anxiety is unexpressed creative potential." So when you know
mm,
your potential to create a life that's from the heart and it's from the soul, we tend to think of anxiety as this bad thing. I know I'm in a good place if I have a stress within me and I can go into what is this stress? Oh, it's always usually because something in me knows I'm not tapping into a
mm,
deeper potential, either coming from the heart, the way that I relate to my work, the way that I relate to others.
mm,
I tended to think before that anxiety was bad. But if
mm,
someone has this deep sense of urgency and agitation, but then they fall into a depression, it's kind of because they know their potential and they're not kind of your dreams find you when you're ready to even accept them. Your dreams should always be
mm,
scary to you. And by dreams, I just mean the way that you want to turn up to the world and what you want to give to the world. And they should always be scaring you because
mm,
if they don't, what's a dream? You're already embodying what you are. But the whole aspect of life is this entropy, this growth, and this the horizon that you see is always going to be just out of reach. And when you look behind you, you realize just how far you've come.
mm,
And this stepping of intention, like you say, it really is masculine direction. Without that, well, what do I want? This is what I don't want, and I'm surrendering it. Well, then how do I
mm,
want to approach life?
mm,
Like, do I want to crack my heart open? Do I want to allow this to really flood through? And it tends to take a bit more effort because you'll be so much more in a transformative place when you're putting yourself in the areas which are high risk. It doesn't have to be risky life decisions, but really taking that plunge brings up everything that you thought you would find kind of sat on the cushion is actually lying dormant
yeah,
in your being, ready to be challenged because you've come here in physicality to challenge yourself
yeah,
but
yeah,
at the same time be gentle with yourself. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about the way you talk about this is that real integration of like how to kind of find full expression in the relative because there's enough like talking about how to kind of see through the initial like beliefs of the small self and all of that, but then it is like just going back to where you started that, but was like the natural place is to use that to bypass. And what you said about that like feeling of anxiety, or for me, it was often this like really restless energy. And it was like when you're trying to just find it all on the cushion, you actually kind of perceive that as bad, like you said about anxiety. But I found myself through a lot of like encouragement through your content was find more expression. And then it was like, oh, this energy wanted to be used. And I was like kind of fighting with it. It was like, oh no, I need to kind of repress any urge to kind of find expression and, success, if I don't know if that's the right word, but like pushing in the relative. And I feel like that's where, yeah, not a lot of people talk about that aspect, of like really using awakening and insights to push yourself in the relative and even push like humanity as a whole. Uh, that's what I'm also curious to get your thoughts on is like, uh, where is this all going as we see this kind of ripple effect of, people waking up more to their authentic expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's such a exciting thing. In one sense, just thinking about the possibilities, but at the same time, it's like it all seems so paradoxical and contradictory.
Mm.
Sometimes I don't know.
I think the word is as well is restless. So many people coming into this with distorted views of meditation as well, as if
Mm,
meditation, like what is meditation to someone at the moment? It's usually sitting still and counting the breaths or something to the mainstream. But the amount of times I realized that all of this energy inside didn't want to just be sat with, it wanted to explode
mm,
through Tantra, which is, we're here obviously to rest as well, to be, it depends on your archetype as well and what you want to bring through. But that untapped energy that wants to create and wants to love and be loved and express itself without an apology. But really, like it's a gentleness as well. It depends on you completely of who you are. Like your creations
mm,
are a manifestation of your personality. So here it just kept coming up that if you always take your cue on nature, right? What does nature do? It's not
mm,
this is the illusion. One day you'll get to like a stagnant freedom that you're finally awakened and you can just be kind of apart from the rest of the universe in your own
mm,
kind of enlightened bubble that's so invincible that you've managed to figure out. But truth and enlightenment is a movement, it's a flow, right? Who you are has never moved, but this whole
mm,
flow is look at nature, the way that it wants to continuously expand and grow and cycle as well. We have this linear approach to awakening that's kind of like this upward hill. And there's always this distant future that will come, but it's actually a cyclical. It's how in tune can you get with the flow of each day, with the cycles that are
mm,
trying to express. When you're in that harmony, because really God is a frequency, right? It's a complete balancing between the masculine and the feminine, between yin and yang. It's this dance. And when you're in that flow, you just have this harmony that is the awakening that you thought you'd find in like a time-based awakening, right? Keeping time
mm,
as real, trying to keep space as real, and trying to find a distant future date that will finally come to put all of my worries at rest. But actually, it's an anxiety that's trying to get you to go and to express and to be
mm,
yourself. And this really goes for whoever's really at that point, because if you're still going into identity work and non-duality, then there's a place for retreat and there's a place
yeah,
for contemplation. But I just keep coming back to the point that in this day and age, I feel like the 20th century was for all of that
mm,
retreat kind of stuff. I don't even call my events retreats really. I like to call them immersions or
mm,
spaces that people can really express themselves. So
mm,
just one last thing as well. Starting stuff like a men's group, I think men in particular are so repressed in their expression. So when
mm,
we think of a male, we think of James Bond, someone very cool, calm, collected, not in touch with their softness as such, maybe not as also erratic. I love when people don't have to have this kind of discipline of awakened being, of always being perfect. Like I have
mm,
days where, I'm taken away and I follow that taken away and it actually leads me to more wisdom because I don't try and take it straight back. I'm almost
mm,
dancing with it. What
mm,
is it that's trying to take? Oh, it's this un unwinding and uncovering of the need to control experience and actually to have uncertainty and to allow uncertainty is really a transformative gift for both masculine and feminine, but especially for the masculine mind, whether you're male or female, but wants certainty and it wants safety in form.
mm,
So I think the
mm,
word uncertainty is massive for this collective.
mm, mm. Yeah, it's true. Um, yeah, a couple of things I guess that come to mind for me is yeah, what you said about the I really resonated with me, like the looking for like a state in the future, like the mind's imagination of the fully awakened state or enlightenment, and it's like whenever that comes up in me, it's kind of dropped away now, but it was coming up a lot at one point of this like when is all the shadow work going to be done, this like seeking for liberation, we could call it. It's like, okay, when is that point? And it was like every time that came up, it was like the only reason that story was playing out is because there was something to try and bypass, like in the moment. There was something that um it was like, oh, I want to get to the state where I don't have to experience this uncertainty or this kind of feeling of not knowing what to do. And then yeah, that's where the engagement is so helpful. It's like it's not it's not, it's like you said it so beautifully. It's not about coming into this like state that's separate from the rest of the universe. It's like penetrating deeper into like how does all of this kind of come into this expression, it's like otherwise what, like I don't know, this is just something you can tell me what you think, but it's been coming up for me a lot lately. It's like, why not like fully embrace humanity like at its deepest level if you have some insight, obviously there's a space like you said for retreat, to open up to beyond the mind. But yeah, for me it's just is like, what is the point of this expression of humanity if not to like drive into the deepest, also like the boundaries, like where has humanity set boundaries and where can we kind of look to break those down? I don't know, that's what comes up a lot for me when I listen to your content. It keeps on opening up, and I just find this like what's the word, admiration for anybody that's pushing the boundaries in any sphere of like the human expression. Like I've got friends that are sportsmen and anybody, and it's like if they're at the edge of like what humanity thinks is possible there, but they're kind of pushing against it, I don't know, that just kind of brings up something warm inside. It's like that just feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, that permission slip, right? Like seeing someone, and also we can ask, well, what does it mean to go beyond, and what does it mean to go over the edge? And I think it's the edge of our addiction to separation and
Mm,
limitation. And it's not about sort of creating a reality that's like success, for example, and going beyond the limits. We have to redefine what success is, because I think many people think going beyond, going beyond, going beyond is like achieving something. And once I achieve that, then others will like me. But
mm,
when we say go beyond, a lot of the times we're saying go beyond the limitations to find that you are really infinite in your
mm,
capacities, right? You're infinite in really anything. You are creating your experience moment to moment, whether you like it or not. It's either unconsciously creating it or you're consciously creating your experience.
mm,
And when you realize that life's coming from you, not at you, because this is the only thing that happens. It looks like everything's coming at you. You have to deal with it and you have to, yeah, go beyond and try and figure out working against the universe. But as soon as you see that it's actually coming this way, and what you're perceiving is all of your beliefs, right? So we could look at the same person, have a completely different reality, because we are creating that person in our mind.
mm,
Like, what are my limitations? Let's say it's a girl, for example, or a boy. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. So just from the insight, we are just have this complete overlay of our experience over what's true to each
mm,
person. So
mm,
for me, it's like divesting the limitations from someone and knowing that there's no need to buy into any hypnotic overlay that says, let's say money, for example. Money's such a sore spot in the collective, like all this guilt around not
mm,
receiving. But to me, money is this amazing opportunity to free up space and time into areas that could be so transformative for society. So
yeah.
let's say limitations around money and that someone may want to go beyond, but how much are they actually receiving for themselves? How much are they taking to be able to go beyond, right? This energy flow that comes in and out.
Mm,
Go beyond, but don't forget to take an inhale as well as an exhale,
mm,
right? All of this
mm,
achievement stuff is one thing, but this is again the feminine. I think of realities as
mm,
one big lung. So go expand out, but then receive that back, that energy, whether it's just having a day of loving yourself or
yeah.
being in luxury for the day, going to the spa. But then, like you say, there's such an inspiration to, let's say, certain figures in sport or business. It's as if they are shining a light of a permission slip to go beyond what you thought was possible. And then you realize that actually, like in fresh powdered snow, there's all of this fresh powdered snow and no one's stopping you from walking any direction
Mm,
except from, a lot of limiting beliefs. And when they feel very limiting, they'll say, you haven't got enough money, you haven't got enough skills, or you've got this disease, or you've got that. But
mm,
the most inspirational thing is seeing someone that has a lot of those things and still finding their way through, right? That's the biggest
Mm,
challenge is people think they have it all perfected out. Actually, ones that have the most wisdom have all of this stuff within and still manage to kind of
mm,
find a way to express
mm,
themselves.
mm. Yeah, that's so true. It brings to mind something like I like that you touched on money, and maybe let's talk about that a little bit, uh, because it's something, yeah, that comes to mind for me is okay. Well, I like what you said about like to push the boundaries. To push the boundaries is like one aspect of it, and then the that drawback is just as like it's the same. It's just the other side of the same coin, because often the mind. I feel like that's often people, when you reach that space, maybe you've realized this already, but like the mind will fixate on the drawback as like the bad side of it, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I pushed the boundaries and now maybe that's fixation in the masculine where it's like, I have to keep pushing. And then on those days where I have to take a moment to actually just breathe and be with what's here without having to change anything, like for my own, as I'm exploring this territory, it's like those are essential together, and it's often the mind will fixate on one as right and the other one as a mistake or something. But I feel like you have to see how they're working together. Otherwise, yeah, you get too focused on form and you get lost in kind of the masculine's like attachment to form, and then you need the kind of
Mm.
appreciation of the formless. And when those come in alignment, okay, I'm just like spitting stuff out here. Um, I feel like that's the sweet spot. It's like, and you will feel like just if this is how it feels for me is I will feel whenever I fixate too much in the one. It's like life or whatever will like reveal that quite clearly to you in the expression of the story or something like that. It's like whenever I'm like, okay, cool, just going to pursue the masculine. And then it's like, okay, wow, like there's lots of things, just obstacles, blocks. And it's like, okay, maybe like you need to spend a little bit more time in the, in the surrender, just see what's coming up in my, because I feel, yeah, I feel like it's bringing out, your own limitations that are still like within you, if that makes sense, and then you need the feminine to navigate that, maybe.
Yeah, no, completely. I think we can look at it as well as the wounded masculine that feels it has to complete something or has to prove its worth through its pursuits. But
Mm,
if there's this go into the world in this more centered way, which is really, you can resist slightly the urge to do everything for safety, right? So like doing your passions for money just to be able to pay the rent. I mean,
mm,
eventually, of course, you have to be able to find a way, but there's a trust that starts to build if you are to truly to follow what you love to do. Um, and if you really believe in it, even if the whole world feels like it's collapsing around you, if you hold on to that trust that you have a gift and whatever that gift is, whether it's big or small, to trust that rather than this. A lot of distortion on the internet is around like making as much money as possible and
mm,
really successful. But who actually gave us these criteria of success? I believe it's a real slavery mindset that's actually like a luxury slavery mindset that says,
mm,
especially in this industry where why does having more money that if anything having a lot of stagnant stale money resting in the bank account sounds amazing, right? But you
mm,
just look at these people so depleted of energy because they've got hoarding and they're hoarding, and
mm.
I think we need to define what success is. I
Yeah.
mean, who's actually teaching us what success is? We're looking at the movies, and isn't it quite suspicious how there is this hypnotic overlay that causes people, well, okay, we can't suppress them into poverty, so we'll make them think that they're rich, but actually they're in another hamster wheel that just
Mm,
thinks success is to be constantly striving for validation, or basically, again, we come back to it. Everyone's looking for a stagnant, still freedom. Once I have a million, right? I,
yeah.
I know people have so much money and they always have the scarcity mindset still because they need more and more.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like the more you have, the more you need to sustain. So what happens when you start to see a generation of people that realize actually freedom's found in the in and out. It's
Mm.
the flow of abundance, right? So if I go down the street and I'm willing just to give someone $10, and but then I know it's going to come back to me at a certain point, and I know that maybe I'm not going to get a lot of money doing this heart-centered work to start with, but I know with time, abundance will come because if I put my heart into it, people understand the authenticity rather than going to like these
Yeah.
projects which could be more money. It's
Yeah.
quicker, like get quick, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
thing comes on really quickly, yeah, that just we can just throw away what success means,
Yeah.
especially for the male psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that point on putting your heart, because that's been my experience as well. So maybe let's talk about that. Um that flow of kind of giving and receiving, and it's often, I don't know, for me I feel like and I think I've seen you as well kind of playing with it a little bit of like your one-on-one sessions and that kind of thing, whereas like I started with this kind of stuff just like wanting to like just make it as accessible to people as possible, and then at the same time realizing that I was repressing kind of my own um needs in a sense, where it was like, okay, I actually, and again, this is always a tricky one to talk about, I feel, but like what you are entitled to receive, but it's kind of, it's like you said, there's guilt around that as well. I feel like it's a tricky balance, because you could feel like, okay, um, I'm entitled to receiving a lot, but then for myself, then it's like, wait, but I'm actually kind of now denying that, like, that heart, that compassion that just wants to come through with giving. It's like, yeah, what's been your experience with trying to kind of find that balance?
Great, great topic because I've gone through some stages of doing sessions for pretty cheap, actually, a lot cheaper
Yeah.
than others, and I found that was actually too far the other way, where I was giving, 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 and it wasn't this kind of you know even balance. Because if someone as well was getting a session for really cheap,
Mm,
they're not actually seeing that as the value as it is, where we're sharing a space which is so it was kind of off balance. And then I went the other
mm,
way. I put up the prices more, and I realized that there was actually a middle way, which is between the two, that I had to find in my heart to get very honest with what it was that I was providing in value, and also my
mm,
demographic, but also what's the pulsing here, right? What's the
mm,
actual flow? Because if you do too much and you think, oh, I'm high ticket and
mm.
I'm so worthy of this. I sense in people this because is that my dog or your dog?
It's my dog.
I don't even have a dog, but there's a dog next door. I'm
All
saying
right.
that it's my dog. But what I'm saying is it's so good to like just let down these things around. So many people take on this high ticket thing where they're like,
Mm, mm,
I need to this. But then I thought about it. I thought, yeah, that's really good to open some things if you are providing that kind of content for that kind of demographic. But also, don't ever feel you have to fit into someone else's archetype for what they want to bring through. Because here it
mm,
was like, actually, I want to be here because my content is speaking to these kind of hearts and these kind of souls. And this is where the flow starts to come. Then you see that again, I keep coming back to this everything's about nature, right? Like if you have something that nothing can feed on and you can't feed on it either, nothing grows. So
mm,
for me, a community starts to build where you start to realize what your energy is as well. Because I'm not really, I can teach to CEOs and I've had millionaires and Victoria's Secret models and these lovely people, but I've
mm.
also got beautiful souls that don't have a lot of money,
Yeah.
but we can start this energy exchange. It doesn't even have to be money. Sometimes I'll say to someone, look, they ask me for a discount. I say, look, it's all about energy exchange. I'm not going to do it for free because then it's
Mm,
off balance. I'll give you advice over email, whatever. But if we're going to come into an energy exchange, possibly you could help me with some graphics or you could help me with some editing
mm,
and I'll provide some sessions for you. So it's
mm,
like I'm trying to even get away from money eventually to the point where I'd love to live in this community, which is everyone's got their skill sets and it's like a hive of
mm.
nature. We can do away with these strange
Yeah.
concepts around money.
Yeah. Yeah, that really resonates. Um, yeah, specifically what you said about like, yeah, I had that experience as well. Like when you put your prices too low, it also just felt like my heart wasn't quite in it the same way, because I felt like I was overextending myself. I was giving like a lot to kind of be able to fill in with somebody, and then it's at the same time it's something it's quite interesting how it is, but like that energy exchange has to really kind of be in balance for it to flow in the best way, because otherwise the perspective from the other side is the same. It's like this isn't such a, it's not intentional, like from anybody, but it is kind of I've noticed that as well, is it's like a yeah, like people are willing to be a lot more invested when you have to spend a bit more, I feel like. And like you're willing to open up more, as it's like, oh, okay, I can get a, like a half an hour chat for pretty cheap. Let's just see what happens. Like, just try to stay safe still as well, because it's like, okay, I can just kind of stay in my paradigm and just hear what this person has to say or something like that. Just like test the waters. So yeah, that is very true. But at the same time, too much to the other side also just, it doesn't feel right for me. But I like what you said about, it's really about finding what is your like archetypal expression of this. Like that is such a thing that I think one has to keep clarifying. Like just for myself, is like so many times I reach like an area where I'm like, okay, how to navigate this, and then I'll look at like how other people are doing it. It's like, okay, how is like Matt addressing this, or like I guess Nikki, I found through you as well, is like more on that high ticket side, and it's like that's not wrong, but maybe that's just not how I want to express, and it's like that's and I guess that brings into what you were saying about like a nice community kind of feel, because that's the feel I get as well whenever I'm looking at projects to tackle nowadays. I'm so much more interested in trying to like leverage everybody's skill sets around me, because it's like I feel like too often we try to like, oh, I'm just going to do everything because of like that wanting of control and things to be this way. But I really like that idea, and however like this comes about for humanity will be fascinating. But like that resonates so strongly with me as well. Is like, okay, you do what you're best at, and then how can that like fit in with what I want to do, and like how can we all feed off each other's like skill sets and creativity? Like that really resonates with me, wherever that comes from. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the wisdom as well of delegation, like actually
Yeah,
being able to free up your control. Because I'm the same. I have this, like if I want it done good, I want to do it myself. But then I
yeah,
realized that's such a limit, right? That's such
yeah.
a, like, knowing that others may have different ideas that I need to be open to with a question mark, rather than this is how
Mm,
I like it and this is how I do it.
mm,
And yeah, I'm sort of building a platform at the moment, which is in phase one, which is just me. But I can see, as I basically see it as a transformative tool as well, where I'll loosen my grip over it and allow others to come in that, let's say someone's really good at business and taking that side of things. I'll trust
mm,
them, create this kind of hive that's a flow of energy and a flow of you're good at this, and therefore I'm going to loosen my reins over that. And then someone else is really good at making music, so they provide all the music
mm,
for the music for the meditations. And I just keep coming back to this nature ecosystem where everything
mm,
works, not because doing it for a purpose of money, but because money is a byproduct of allowing yourself allowing a system to be in place that everyone's basically working at their fullest potential in their skill set, rather
mm,
than in the skill set that right? So
mm.
everyone goes into the workplace almost given a job, but not many people allow them to tailor the job description from their own skills.
Yeah.
And so we have a strange back and forth of a hierarchical corporations where it should, to me, I'm creating this whole system in my mind that isn't hierarchical, where I'm the boss, you're below me, she's below you, he's below you. It's
Mm,
actually like, the Milky Way, where it spirals out.
mm,
I have this like energy thing where it's like a central organizing principle, but everything works together in a spiral, right? So there's leeway between job descriptions, and it's completely whatever you're shining as, really, as a star, again, very
mm,
poetic way. But
mm.
however you're providing support for this ecosystem, it's done on that, rather than like you work for me. It's we work as one being,
Yeah,
really, like
yeah,
one entity.
yeah. Yeah, and then there can even still be like those who take more of a delegation managerial role. Like I'm just thinking out loud here. Like if that's their like authentic talent, like I'm sure there are people that would be more happy to have that. It's like that balance, like have that freedom to express creatively, but probably still. perform better with a little bit of kind of pushing from somebody that has the more kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess we shit on control a lot from the spiritual talk, like control, but like, you know, there's a role, there's a place
No,
for
it's
it as
good.
well. Yeah, as long as
Yeah,
it's not a
it's built on
fixation.
that.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. No, you carry on because this is good. This whole guilt around control, we need structure as well, but in a way that's kind of like a organic structure rather than
mm.
like a rigid.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking with Josh. I don't know if you know Josh Putnam at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, I was talking with him the other day, and yeah, like the way he expressed it, which I feel like fits in here, was like the mind is much better as an assistant, you know. So like you can use control, you can use like creative thought and you know, all of these kind of things that we used to be trapped in as like our like filter for reality. It can still be useful, but more on like the back seat. And I one thing that seems so important with all of this as well is like the, you've touched on it a bit, is like the release from seriousness and like hoarding and scarce, like survival and safety mentality. You know, it's like that's where the flourishing really happens, is through like lightness and play, I suppose, you know, and like enjoyment. Like there's still the challenge and like the friction and the tension, but like I've just found for me everything works as soon as I try to like get too attached to like something, it just doesn't work. And as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this for fun, and that's when it just like flows better, you know.
Yeah, as well, you can't even take any of this money or achievement through the veil. So it's like the only thing that's
Yeah.
really beneficial is the consciousness that grows, your awareness, and basically the ability and the capacity you have to love yourself and to love others. And when you take all away what doesn't really matter, you're left with what does matter, which is always just how much love am I allowing myself to receive and embody and to give? Like it all
Mm,
comes down to love at the end of the day. And
mm,
when it's so wrapped up in the pursuits of creating something that can finally give me some safety and security, that we don't realize that everything we thought we'd find in that security, like if you picture a millionaire in a big mansion just sat there finally trying to feel content, he's then lonely. So,
mm,
there's just this, everyone's trying to basically separate themselves out from the universe and
mm,
manage to find it there. But like you say, the serious pursuit for security is really, the remedy for that is this release into the uncertainty of passion. Which, I mean, let's say
mm,
passion, right? When you're listening to music or you're writing music or you're just, yeah, whatever, there's no seriousness a lot of the time. With If there is seriousness in music, it turns out to be a rubbish piece of music. But when you
mm,
kind of from the masculine like purpose of needing to do something in a transactional, strategic way,
mm, mm,
there should be no strategy a lot of the time in a lot of this. The strategy should be, how can I support myself? How can I receive abundance by staying in the heart and
mm,
doing what my soul wants? That's really the only strategy you need. And then all the other strategies are like organic ways that support that, but without the guilt as well of putting your prices to what you think it is, or
mm,
putting on events, charging the value of those events. The biggest revelation for me was seeing how transformative business can be, right? Where
mm,
you can set up your business. Basically, a lot of people self-sabotage, right? They think that they don't, oh, I'm so spiritual, I don't need to do all of this business stuff. But actually, they know the potential. If they were to open to their skill set and would have all this funding come in, they could reinvest that in a retreat center. They could reinvest that
mm,
into these amazing products that they could sell, or really more just not about selling. It's like, imagine the space and time you'd have with all of that money that comes in for you to
yeah,
then put more effort into. So I think
yeah,
sabotage is huge in that.
yeah, yeah. It's such a good point. Like, because for me, that's money is. It's funny. Like I, before the whole awakening thing just started unfolding for me in life, like that was um like the pursuit, I guess, just like from that perspective of freedom, you know, it's like, okay, that freedom to be able to do more in the relative. But, you know, until you kind of integrate with the universal kind of love and consciousness, that was, you know, coming from the wrong place. But not really, like it just wasn't balanced, and that's kind of what the integration phase, like as you said, going into spirituality, saying like, okay, no, like no ego desires, that's all wrong, blah blah blah, and then afterwards realizing that, hey, if you actually come at this with a balanced, mature perspective, there's so much, like if you kind of figure out how to leverage business, or leverage your skills to kind of create a inflow of money. Like for me, that is like, who knows how things are going to play out, but I can see so much value in that. Like as long as you stay in touch with your heart, though, because there is, it can maybe bring out some still hidden agendas or something. Sometimes it has for me. Like, oh, okay, that's what I was still looking for security. I was still looking for safety. And I was kind of using that to avoid like a more authentic expression in another area of my life. But at the same time, like I feel if someone can find in themselves the way to leverage that, you can kind of spread your light, in more creative ways, because you free up your kind of responsibilities or whatever. You can leverage things more, and yeah, I feel like that is an important thing that a lot of people just feel too guilty to even focus on.
It almost feels too good to the mind to even allow that maybe this could go the way that it wants to go. That if
Mm,
you had two people apart and they were the same person, there's two different parallel timelines. One of them was to say no to their dreams of providing something for society in a business way, maybe in a transactional way, but was really still in the heart, and they avoided that. There was another, the same person with different timeline where they thought, right, I'm going to see stress and fear as a behind me, pushing me rather than having to deal with it this way, and actually to take that to wisdom and to go with the challenges that come. The
mm,
temptations will come for security. The amount of times here where I've had the decision that's like, right, get this piece of money just so I can pay the rent to be able to do it next. To know that that's going to come, that has to.
mm,
You didn't come to have a really easy existence. Otherwise,
yeah,
what would you be really um,
yeah,
learning that what you so like even this morning I went on a run. I was going to run because if I can start the day in this cycle of just like feeling alive, it sounds really strange because at the
mm,
moment I'm in a position where I've got lots of bills. I've got to figure out more and more how to stay in the heart whilst doing all this work, but to see it as a opportunity to come out the other end in a place that knows what it's like to face that and to see it as a positive challenge to basically retain your innocence of what you truly want, but to
mm,
not have to succumb to the guilt mechanisms that are overlaid on why you shouldn't be making money out of this, you shouldn't be doing this, because your gift is for the world. And with more space and funding, you can provide even more of what you love to do. So
yeah,
we can all guilt around that completely.
yeah,
I hope that helps as well.
mm,
That this is just my experience. It's that I've been a very online presence, right? Online is easy. You upload videos. You
mm,
don't have to really face it. You just kind of put thing. What's
mm,
inviting me in this phase is these community-based things where I can be a part of something that we can get rid of this pedestal that everyone seems to put YouTubers on and
mm,
see that to come into the world, the true success is not the amount of numbers on your YouTube account. It's how much are you in harmony with the nature of being alive and human and being in a community or a way that has like in-person events, and it's calling me into like real personhood and actually
mm,
anything in me doesn't, because we're all students of this, whether there's someone's leading a retreat or is in the retreat, there's all parts of ourselves that we want to remain hidden, right? There's all parts
mm,
of ourselves that we want to keep just away from the rest of the others. This fear of being found out a lot of the time people have. And
mm,
so for
mm,
me, it's like still doesn't want to be found out because online you can keep a lot of things hidden, right? You see a lot of spiritual teachers that may be
mm,
teaching, but they've still got something within. So I'm interested, well, what's lying dormant in me that would only come up in
mm,
person stuff or in like a day retreat. So I'm starting this monthly hike where
mm,
anyone in England, anyone that wants to just a free day meet and a walk for like 4 hours, 2 hours or whatever. And it means we can actually have like interactions. And it's not about
mm,
like shadow work it's doing it for the joy of meeting. But of
yeah,
course there'll be things that come up that will come up
yeah,
online. So I want to do like in-person sessions. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But and just
Yeah.
my end, I wanted to share like how
Yeah.
that to me is just beyond what I would never have even thought about that 3 years ago, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like, yeah, how can you continue to like challenge yourself in this? And it's cool. Yeah, I wanted to like, yeah, I was interested in um, what's your like growth ideas for yourself going forwards, because I really, I do resonate with your stuff like the most, because you of this perspective on like integrating into, you know, humanity and like pushing the boundaries, and that like really holistic approach. So you know, you've mentioned the walk, the yeah, I'm interested in your men's groups as well. Yeah, what else what else are you like really interested, or like big projects or anything like that? I'm curious of like, yeah.
So I've got that platform at the moment. I enjoy the platform because I can take my name away from it. So it's called Demito, and I see
Mm,
it basically. Sounds strange, but I see it as a garden. So whatever someone plants in this garden, they enjoy the fruits of. And it's a place where at the moment I'm in phase one, where only I'm doing the events, only I'm really doing the sessions. It's only me doing all the graphics as well. I see this growing into more of a community where people can come in and teach in it, or we can have a structure where I want to start doing retreats and you know,
mm,
I'd love to start in-person stuff, but also going into topics which aren't so much gone into at the moment. So
mm,
for me, the big virus is the sexual energy virus that a lot of
mm,
men like have this fear of inadequacy, have this shame, this guilt, and women as well. And but money as well, finances, stepping into the light, all of these topics that I'm kind of interested in. I want like a basically the Mito to be a place where these cutting edge stuff are really taught
mm,
and processed within, and for it to be completely abundant, like just
mm,
memberships and like this, and to have a flow of, you know, it provides so much love and content, but also it has the value known to it. So there's this
mm,
equal flow going. That's what
mm,
the moment I'm in phase one, where it's all based on sessions, events, and stuff, stuff like that. But I can see it opening up into more of a having people in the project
mm,
who will
mm,
be doing their skills. Maybe someone's really into business. Maybe they're just, you know, we have this thing set up where they take care of certain marketings and things within this, and then someone else is more creative, and maybe someone's really good at giving sessions. And so on the sessions
mm,
panel, there's like a few to choose from. You know, I can do a men's group, but what about I've got a friend who's amazing working with women. She can do the women's
mm,
group on a Tuesday. So for me, it's like planting seeds, and even like, you know, people that show interest like yourself, whenever there's a spot that I feel is going to bring the best out of them, or if they just want
mm,
to kind of, and just for a temporary thing or something like that, I think what, like you said, you're good at, I'm also good in the same way of trying to unhook what I think should be happening and give the trust to someone that's almost like far better in that position.
yeah,
So that's my motivation at the moment for myself is to, can I
yeah,
make this what happen? Can I make it work?
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I love that. Like that resonates so much, like with how I'm feeling about this kind of stuff as well. So definitely, like, let's keep in touch about that, because I'd love to, you know, if you ever want to collaborate or anything. Because for me, I just feel like that same, like what you were saying there, is just there's so much more growth opportunity. But I like the way that you're approaching it. It's like you kind of have to start on your own, kind of set your foundations, and then like create the paradigms of what you want, and then you can invite others, and then you can kind of be open to, you know, because I like going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think there's so much growth potential in the integration of like different perspectives, especially if it brings up some like friction or challenge. It's like that's a, you know, that's such a great soil for, you know, some new integration of perspectives. But I feel like what opens you up to that ability is to kind of have set the paradigms of what your intention is initially, and then you know, see where collaborating in that space goes. But that's what comes to mind for me as well. If I feel like there's, you know, cool, it's great to keep digging deeper, and like that's part of it, but at the same time it's like, can we like really start to look at ways to integrate, and yeah, again, like push the boundaries in like fun ways, or just like in curious, like explorative, if that's a word, ways. Um, so I'm very excited about yeah, what happens with your platform. It's I love that. I love the
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Reminds me of this film I saw, Nike, the way it started, and
Mm,
you've got to just have a feeling, right? You can't have the details being like, I want it to be like this, I want it to be like that. You've got to shun away the details and just think, what do I want this to embody? And when I think of Nike, it's away from all the ways that they treat their workers and stuff, but the actual essence of a lot of their
mm,
marketing in like the early 2000s was this kind of like, just do it. You can do anything. And it
mm,
was like, when I go into Demito, I think of this just an essence that I want to be like empowering. I want it to feel going beyond the edge of what they think is possible, but also this like almost sensual, like artistic
mm,
self-love
mm,
as well. This balance between the two. So I have within me this clear vision of energy, right? And I have all of these fears around whether it's going to work, all of these challenges to have to come. Like I'm paying all of this rent, I'm living out Airbnbs, like I never know where I'm going to be living next. It's completely put me in the deep end, but it's like,
yeah,
right, rise up to the challenge or are you going to
yeah,
sink, right?
yeah,
Swim off.
yeah,
I've chosen to swim as much as I can.
yeah.
And like you say, I fall into some good mistakes. Like I only learn or succeed. And the learning stuff is like trying to get people involved in the foundations, which is good. But also, what I found is actually to create the foundations really strongly in myself for the
Mm,
vision and then allow people to grow off the branches, right? Rather than
mm,
people meddling with the trunk. Let
yeah,
me get the trunk in,
yeah.
in, but almost like the graphics. And then, like people like yourself, instead of us having these unstable foundations where we're not really sure on the energy and the
Mm,
design and this. Once that structure's in place, you then have like a garden again for you to plant your own seeds. And it's
mm,
almost like this utmost thing where whatever you put in, let's say you do an event, you are responsible for the event, but you take everything profit-wise from it because you're the one giving the value. So
mm,
can you see how, like in a forest, the same way a
mm,
whatever in there would be eating from the forest, but they would have to give back to it. Otherwise, the ecosystem they have
mm,
to get eaten by someone. But in this, it's not
yeah,
about eating; it's what you're giving and taking, like a flower
yeah.
garden. So I'm actually this is one thing I do have to make a decision on. Is I actually prefer the name Florentia because it's Latin for flowering, and it
Mm,
kind of Demito is very masculine and Florentia. But what I want is a bit more consistency. So once I decide on everything, I want to keep it right,
mm.
quite
Yeah,
consistent.
like stick to it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's just my opinion on that. But I
Mm,
feel we kind of same inspiration in these kind of projects.
yeah, yeah. What's the meaning behind Demito? What's that inspiration?
To me, mito means to release or to forgive in Latin.
Oh,
And
okay.
to me, that's like an older paradigm now. So that's why it was so good for when I was using it for these years. And it's like, yeah, release
Mm,
and forgive, but it's flowering of like
mm,
the aliveness of being, of actually evolution and taking those steps. The word
mm.
Florentia, so I am making a decision soon. I've got all the logos for both of them set up. I just need to basically get it in before it becomes big,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
then not have to after
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's a good point because it's like you want something that you can like follow. Like once you really start to expand it, it's like you kind of want it to be set. Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I've always found cool about your stuff is like this willingness to keep like shifting until you find like I've just noticed that about your content and your channel, like willingness to keep diving into different spaces. But then I guess when you find like your real kind of passion, like your real big vision, then you kind of want to like kind of go all in on that. And yeah, I guess that's where the masculine like meets the like to bring something into form, you know. Um, yeah, but yeah, I love the idea of that.
That's it. Yeah, because one thing I was going to say was that's something I found in myself as a shadow was this slight wounded masculine that didn't want to fully commit to a certain thing. So it's the same thing
Yeah.
with not wanting to be like a girl, right? It's the
Mm,
same hidden thing in all wounded masculine is kind of flittering between things. But in a way, this has allowed me to explore and to almost gain wisdom in all these different areas. But for me to really heal this even like the Airbnb owner offered me 6 months in this place rather than
mm,
having to pay through Airbnb every month. And I thought there was this twinge inside because I thought, well, that's a loss of freedom somewhere. But that's also a
Mm,
wounded masculine
yeah.
opportunity to actually commit to something
Yeah.
and to sit and not care about this and to actually grow something in the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had to learn that.
I can relate so much to that, dude. Like I'm also like because I guess it's like when you want to kind of challenge yourself and like push expand your boundaries and stuff, there's that kind of want to travel, want to explore new spaces and all of that. But I've found in myself as in those when I'm doing that, I don't kind of have the ability to really build something, because you the ground's changing all the time, which is good. It has its value, but at the same time, I can totally relate to that. Like I'm often the same if I think because I've been doing a little bit of that myself, like bouncing between Airbnbs, and it's very powerful because it pushes me to like find ways to support that kind of living. It's like otherwise if I'm staying at home with my parents too much, it's too much safety, it's too much, there's not that like that push. But yeah, I can resonate with that feeling of like having to like commit to something and that revealing like some shadow fear of like now I have to see this through also.
That's so funny to actually have the bypass of, well, no, I just want to be a free spirit and I don't want to be tied down. That's actually just a wounded masculine, a lot of that. Like I had to
Yeah.
get so honest with myself. I had to look in and thought, hmm, I'm actually sabotaging a space for me to like she's offered me so I'm in this place and it's absolutely like like so amazing. Like I'm not paying extortionate fees, but if I were to
Mm.
do 6 months, it would be like a reasonable fee and it's right in the countryside near Bath and Glastonbury. It's perfect. And you can see how the mind, even if it's given the most perfect thing on a platter, if it seems to threaten this freedom to not have to take responsibility for your
Mm.
actions and your creations, I need to look at that and think, what am I not wanting to take responsibility for? Like 6 months is not too long,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So, because I've been in places for a year at a time, I finally wanted to be able to travel the world. But I thought I've done a lot of traveling, and what's it like to actually start to put energy and investment into in a consistent energy that you know is in your heart, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
worst thing you can do is put energy into something that is not in your heart,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's like the worst thing you do. But I would love to stay in this place. So I think
Yeah.
um over that, like
Have have
because I'll be in different.
have you
Yeah.
committed to that 6 months or
We're just seeing if it would work out at the moment, but I
okay.
think it would, which would be good. At the
Yeah.
moment, I just have to see if it can work out on both ends, and I would love to
Right.
commit to it. And yeah, because my work's always traveling, and I would really love to be in a place for longer than just like 1 month,
Mm, mm, mm. Are you still doing a lot? Because I see like I didn't know the other side of you, but I know you do a lot of like film work and that kind of stuff. I mean, I see you like create stuff for like Man City and that. Are you still like planning on doing a lot of that as like while you're here or what?
Um, yeah, this is the thing where I was doing so much of that film work where it kind of went away from my true passions and
Mm,
my true heart, what I wanted to bring through. So for me, it was like, do I want to continue to do this with all this money coming in from the Man City stuff and all that stuff, but basically selling out what I truly wanted to bring through, which wasn't
yeah.
like selling a football top, right? Or
Yeah.
making like, especially in music, there's so much of the time it was just making something for them rather than myself, which is fine.
Mm,
But
mm,
let's say you get into documentaries or something that's a lot more um, heartfelt, you're actually creating something that is balanced in who you are and what you're bringing to the world. So I had to make a decision to, again, we're speaking about going away from what's safe. I think if you want safety, you would go for all this money stuff in the projects, but actually that becomes
mm.
unsafe because you're not following your heart and it's
Yeah.
so you're going to resist it so much eventually.
Yeah. 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 And I can totally relate to that. Like bringing that together with what you just said about um like the worst thing you can do is put your energy into something your heart is not in. Like yeah, like I often explore this stuff from the perspective of health, just because that's what like people resonate with me talking about, because I guess because I have the that story that I've lived through as well, but that affects your health, like quite literally. Like I was before I'd done any of this kind of inner exploration, that pouring myself too much into, because I didn't know my heart at all, right? Like I wasn't we become so detached from the heart before we take this inward journey. I was so detached with that, and I like you get physically ill from it. So yeah, I guess that just ties into some of the other stuff that I talk about online. But
Absolutely. Yeah, we forget who
yeah,
we are. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And just what your own experience with like other side projects. Like I came to that same conclusion in myself recently, that I was trying to like balance other ways to bring in finances to support myself. So like I teach kite surfing here, and then um, it was draining me like too much. Like sure, I was making money out of it, but I just didn't have that same energy to pour into projects that could really light up like my soul and my heart, like things that I'm actually like,
Mm.
this is what lights me up. And as soon as I uh cut off, like, and realized that I could do that, that I could actually just say, hey, like this isn't aligning right now. And but it's so synergistic and like lawful, like the way nature works, whereas like I had to see how, that didn't align anymore. And then it came to a natural cessation at like the end of the job period. And then it was like, okay, now I'm willing to start pouring more and more energy into what I really want to do, because I don't want to keep having to find other means that don't, align, if that makes sense. Like it feels, yeah.
Yeah, and your willingness to not keep something going that's there's not an alignment because you want to maybe like I love anyone that's also able to just stop doing something that's not in alignment.
Mm,
Get honest with that as well, because we tend to
mm,
start things when we love it, and your passions should evolve. They should kind of grow from each other. And it's not
mm,
always the best idea to have this masculine, what it means to be certain and fixed in what you want to do. But like we say, everything's a middle way where also giving things, when you do love something and you've kind of gone off it, there's so much subtlety that comes in and tries to talk you out of something because it wants you to
mm,
um say, oh yeah, this is a waste of time, this and this. So also having the balance and the trust and the space to give it time to even grow into something. Where
mm,
once we find something, once you come across something that you love, if something's not in alignment, the willingness to snip it is going to make you so much lighter. But then when something
mm.
does good come along, watch for any sabotage that says, well, you know, oh, this is not going to make money. This is not going to be good enough.
Yeah,
I'm not good enough. I'm not. I woke up this morning with this thing saying, just pack all this in and do some and do like the money stuff. And I just said, no, not today. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah,
another test. And you just go anytime, go this and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, give it space. Like
yeah.
commit to something. Like this is the wounded masculine again trying to come in and run away. And it's just like, no, not today. I'm gonna
Mm,
keep giving it this water it and grow it.
yeah, yeah. That it's so good to point that out. So like that people are kind of starting on this path know how natural that is, because that comes up for me so much as well. And it's like, it's just it's almost showing that you're going in the right direction. Like that's how I look at it now. It's like, oh, okay, are there doubts coming up? Is there kind of fear of the unknown? And but again, at the same time, for me, I guess the willingness to drive into that has come from the suffocation of like how suffocating it felt when you gave into those thoughts, So it's like that kind of sparks for me. It's like, okay, yeah, I've had periods where I just kind of pulled back and I was like, no, I'm not ready. Believing the doubt, saying like, oh, like I've also had that, like maybe I should just stop talking about any of this shit and just like, go do this. And actually, your stuff has always been like inspiration. Is just like express your light, and realize like that the doubts and the fears and the shame is like, that's why you're going in the right direction, because you're still digging out like what's still hidden in your psyche. It's like that self-sabotage. It's like, oh, there was still something
Exactly.
there. I actually needed to do this. I needed to push myself into the space where I had no choice but to face that. And then the freedom to express from a lighter place just kind of opens up, and then maybe something else comes in again. So it's like this continual push pull, something like that.
Yeah. once you, like you say, if someone hasn't realized just how horrendous it feels to be in a place where you've just completely given up on the heart's purpose
Mm,
and you're just kind of going for safety or security and you're not living, you know, to what you want to do, you you have to feel that discomfort to know that you don't want it, right? Because most people
yeah.
think that to surrender is to fall into that trap of, well, everything's going to end anyway, and this is it. Like you came
Mm,
here to explore and to live and to breathe and to bring through things that no one else can because everyone's a unique, energetic expression of the divine. No one's ever going to be the same that you are.
mm,
So because you know all of that potential within, there's this tendency to almost be overwhelmed by it. And
yeah.
when you let the overwhelmed by it actually cave you in, it's sink or swim. And even if it does sink you, the willingness to come back up to the surface when you're ready to take a breath and to kind of get back on the boat is
Yeah.
way more courageous than just, I used to say, oh, just sink to the bottom of the ocean and you'll find that you can actually breathe underwater. And that's true. A surrender is
Mm,
there that you never in danger anywhere. But
mm,
what's the most courageous action in this moment? You could always ask yourself, what's going to bring me alive? Well,
mm.
it's the heart's joy of whatever it is that I want to do. And that takes courage to actually be discerning about what thoughts aren't useful, what beliefs are actually really heavy weights that are hanging on to me. And that
Yeah.
takes getting over this spiritual bypass of all thoughts are welcome. Yeah, they're all welcome, but
Mm,
which beliefs are, what do I need to believe in, like, about
yeah.
myself?
Yeah. That's such a like I'm glad you bring that up. That's such a like an important like nuance. It is like it's tricky because there's periods where that is so helpful, but I've come to that kind of conclusion in myself as well that it's like, yeah, everything is welcome, everything is allowed, but like you can also use the sword of wisdom to just like cut down like pathways that you just don't need to go down anymore. And then sure, maybe sometimes you do too much of that and then you need to just like open the heart a little bit to like, hey, everything's okay, everything's allowed, all thoughts are allowed. But then at the same time, it's like, am I giving too much space to um like fear based, like fear is allowed, and this is, like when I work with people, this is often like um it's such a it's a paradoxical thing. It's confusing to understand, but it is, and I feel like we all come to that realization in ourselves if we're just willing to keep being honest. But that point is so true that like, yeah, sometimes you just got to cut something off. You just got to be brutally honest with yourself and just be like, am I going to keep giving space to this kind of small mindset? This kind of victim mindset. Like that's something that I think you mentioned at some point. And just if you just drop, you can drop like victim mindset forever. And just never kind of go back into that space. And that's where like you need the sword as opposed to just like allowance. It's like there's just no need to ever kind of spin that narrative again.
Yeah, just becoming so aware of it, like to
Mm,
almost also see it as a bad thing. Like, everyone has the bind to victim mindset because it's just so rampant throughout the collective. You turn on TV and all it is people blaming each other for everything. But then because we're coming to sovereign being, you can just have a decision. Like you literally are creating how you believe things are in the world, like every time it comes through. So you can just say, well, what's no longer serving me? And you've got to really go into victimhood and be in that for a while to realize
yeah,
just how heavy it is.
yeah,
And once you've been in that for a while, even the most subtle things, right? And I know you speak on this like with a lot of your demographic and what you speak about because of your experiences. That's such a great place to really come into where that can become something that can either sink you or swim, sink or swim, and to
mm,
actually come through that with the self-love and the forgiveness, but also the willingness to drop anything that puts the control outside of yourself of why, you feel a certain way. It's so
mm,
inspirational for those that maybe don't have body
yeah.
thing or thing. And to like, I remember seeing, have you seen the documentary called Claire? Have
Mm-mm.
you seen that
I haven't
documentary?
seen it.
Oh, it's an amazing one on this sick child. She passed away actually, but she just had the attitude of being alive, and it was like
Mm,
this is far more important than anything you do. But back
yeah,
to like the doubt, I think if you look at anyone that's done anything worthwhile, like they've gone through everything,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
biggest valleys, the biggest things, and they realized they would do it all again because to live a life out. And by the way, some people just live less like impactful lives. They just want to live
Mm,
simply and in love as well. But at the same time, whatever our journey is will be frightening to the ego, but it's only the ego that it's frightening to,
yeah,
because everything else, that's what drops away. That's why it feels like death, because those parts of you are the parts of you that are dying.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then it's just life working in synergy, kind of without the manager that needed to stop certain things from happening. You know, it's that like when everything is allowed, then things just function better. This just something I've been wanting to kind of, if we've got time, dive into a little bit. Is I'm curious if you've found astrology helpful at all. I've seen you kind of share some things. Yeah, just because it comes to mind for me, because it's funny. I used to come from such like a scientific, that like rational perspective on things, and as you just kind of open up, it's mysterious how incredible everything is. But so yeah, I can obviously understand for some people that this won't resonate with, but for me, that's such an important part of finding that like expression in yourself. Like for me, that was a yes, or like a pushing me to kind of uh, trust into these parts of myself that I didn't really know was my gift, if that makes sense. And it helped me to understand other people more as well, like family members and whatnot. Like you said, like some people just want to live on different frequencies, and part of the coming into the heart is like allowing them to flourish in their frequency, not in your frequency, if that makes sense. I don't know, but just like
Yeah.
understanding, yeah, that's why like that person has different kind of ambitions or whatever to me, because so yeah, I just found like astrology is like a cool tool. I was curious if like you found that useful for yourself at
Yeah,
all.
I had a few readings recently. I was looking into it, and a lot of it making sense, especially the gene keys that use a lot of astrology and just the natal charts and locations
Mm,
and stuff. And we have such a limited understanding of the planets and their energies and the way that they impact energies. And even I was looking at how there's certain conjunctions of, I think it was Jupiter and Uranus, I think, they create a very revolutionary energy, which was the exact setup when the French Revolution happened. And then it's starting to come back around now, and you see all this revolutionary energy picking up. So within the
mm,
collective, there's also this energy coming through. And then also within each of us, you just can't overlook it. No matter how rational you try and get it, almost becomes irrational to overlook it, right? Like
right.
when all the science and stuff you start to open, well, what is science?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
whatever's true,
Yeah.
really, which I don't see a difference in spirituality and science. And I think astrology is like a middle point there.
Mm,
I
mm,
just think it's so helpful to me because it would give me pointers and stuff. And you can also use these little pockets. They're all just manifestations in your mind, but they're like portals for
yeah.
certain areas, for me especially, like around these stone circles in Glastonbury. You can just feel the energy. And I used to not believe in any of it, but it's just
Mm,
too potent to ignore.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, what you said about like science and all of that. It's like, yeah, that's kind of fallen into such a trap of like whatever the mind can't understand is like nonsense. And it's like as soon as you realize like that's the only reason like all we grow up with all of these beliefs around like what's a load of nonsense, just because the mind can't understand it. It's like it doesn't fit into the like conceptual framework. Like that was for me, when astrology started like making sense. I was like, wow, I can actually appreciate this now, because there's not that need to like put everything into a box. It's just like, wow, this is like deeply mysterious and it's pretty fucking cool. But like, and you can actually appreciate it. But yeah, I found that so helpful. Like you said, like the natal chart. I just at some point, I think I listened to somebody talking about awakening, and they started talking about astrology as well. And I was like, wow, I've never actually explored that from this new perspective, that everything actually has some truth in it. And then, yeah, reading through that kind of stuff, it was just such a, yeah, it was like you know what it was? It was like a helpful understanding of myself and my own like story. It's like you said, it's all just like a manifestation in the mind, but it can be really helpful tools in like finding ways to master, as you like to say, which is a good word, like master the expression, like in this formless world, in the world of form. And yeah, for me, like understanding, like, oh yeah, there's a reason, like I need to actually allow my sensitive nature to flourish more, because that's like such an important part of me. And that's why every time I kind of put too much energy into things that repress that like sensitivity, it's just felt like stifling, So like that was really helpful for me. Just like, okay, how can I leverage these kind of things? And it was just like mind blowing how relevant it all was as well. It was like, wow, the planetary stuff has so much truth in it.
You can just use anything as a tool, and then again it can be a bypass, if a sabotage, if the mind saying, well, I don't want to use this, because it knows deep down that it could actually be very helpful to uncover what it is
Mm,
that wants to be blocked, what's being hidden, and what's your personality type. And eventually it does become a bit of a fixation, I find, if someone goes over the top, oh, it's because of this planet and this planet, right? Like
yeah,
blaming the planet. but
yeah.
but in a middle way, again, we keep coming back to this middle way, that I've found it beneficial. Like when stuff around me, I've got all of these planets in Virgo, which points a lot to self and like self-love and sovereignty. But then it means that my challenges are in, like I said before, opening to community and opening
Mm,
to loosening my reins of control over certain things. So we've all got these archetypes that we've planned to come into this body at a
mm,
certain energy for the themes that we want to explore. So to overlook that is just so silly, because it could give you so much insight into your challenges more than anything. I don't want to know like
mm,
what I'm really good at, love to
mm.
do as well. It's all, what does this mean that I'm going to find difficult, and how can I learn the best from that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, yeah, it can be so helpful, especially when that like pulls up something that you like felt in your like around the challenges, like you read something and it's like, yeah, you'll have challenges in this area, and then you'll know like, oh, okay, that's kind of true. I need it. And it's helpful, yeah, to then like push yourself to remain aware of that, and like, when am I kind of falling into that? Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
beautiful. I just
yeah,
realized I will have to go and do some work now. So maybe we wrap up in a sec. But
cool.
yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about, but I think it's been such a good conversation around some topics where I think a lot of guilt for many people, really,
Mm,
like
mm,
especially around money, especially around business, but also the guilt of just shining bright, and the guilt
yeah,
of realizing that so many people sabotage the success because they don't think it's spiritual. But then we'll look back at these dates and think, well, what is spiritual, right? Like when
yeah,
did we ever think that not having this or that was? So I think
yeah,
we're in a complete shift in paradigm at the moment that's just completely being let go of.
yeah, yeah. That's why yeah, I was like excited to talk with you, because I feel that as well, like this kind of, the paradigms are shifting in everything. It's like this can really, we can bring this kind of limitless perspective into everything once we've discovered it in ourselves first. It's like, and then it's like you said, what's not spiritual? I mean, it's like, it's all just the expression of this. But where we are cutting this out is, that's not this and that's not this, and like, and doing it on a, in a very relative level as well. Like, let's bring this all into the relative, and see how the paradigms shift. And yeah, it's very, yeah, interesting seeing where things are going. Yeah, so
I appreciate
yeah.
it, brother. Thanks for talking today. It's been great to go into those topics, and I feel, yeah, maybe people benefit from slightly different perspectives on maybe more of a yang talk that we had than a
Mm,
yin,
mm,
but what the energy is for everyone, a lot of
yeah,
people at the moment, is like taking those steps rather than, if someone's wanting to sink into more of a retreat, which is needed, that's great. Like there's no need to ever need to push yourself, but also
yeah,
there's a massive invitation to step into those deeper
yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, if that resonates, there's like a timing um, for everything. Yeah, one thing we'll probably have to, we didn't have the time to get into today, but it popped up, but it just never kind of flourished into conversation. Or I'd love to chat with you one day, maybe in the future, or something more about like sexuality and the integration of that. I feel like that's like, as you're saying, we're exploring the themes of guilt and stuff today. I feel like that's, especially in the male in the male psyche. I don't know, maybe that's gonna
Yeah, and that's what the men's group is going to be mainly on is really is those paradigms. And the retreat I'm doing after leaving the shore is going to be called like sexual union. So I just
okay.
want to do a whole retreat on the union. But yeah, in terms of videos and stuff, the one that's going up tomorrow is just on this exact topic.
Okay.
But yeah, we can always talk about another time. But I think for me, I would love to keep bringing light to all of the limiting beliefs around it about, like, especially the men's psyche of what it means to be successful in a relationship or
Mm,
in sex or whatever. All these strange distortions that we've been fed just can be completely
yeah.
examined and basically let go of.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so I'll definitely keep an eye on your men's group because, like, I think a space where people can speak freely about this stuff, like in vulnerability, is like unheard of. You know, I mean, sure, you know, I don't know like what's out there, but it's definitely needed. So I think like that's such a cool thing that you're providing there. Is like for men to be able to come up and be like, hey, you can talk about like sexuality and your like your struggles there and your in like a awakened perspective. Like I think, yeah, that's a very useful and important thing, I think. Yeah.
I think it's huge. Yeah, I'm gonna try
Mm,
do. Thing is with this stuff, I could have I could have a big group where it would maybe not be too beneficial to have massive groups. So I'm going to probably
mm,
cap it, but maybe do. I like the idea of like a consistency, so like Monday evenings or
mm,
like the first or third Monday, and people can just sign up to whichever one they want.
mm,
So maybe I'll put it up for. I've got basically for May, I'm going to do a set calendar which won't change, and then it could be like the first Monday and the third Monday of that month, and see who signs up, and maybe cap it to like 10 even
mm.
or
Okay, yeah.
something.
Yeah, keep
We'll
it
see. Yeah,
intimate, yeah. Yeah, well, I'll
yeah,
definitely keep an
exactly.
eye
And
out.
not have sure,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna maybe record it, maybe, or just if I say anything that I think I could help others, maybe I'll upload it, but to keep it like confidential, so everyone's.
Mm,
But also, I think it's important to make sure that people don't have to say anything, but it'd be nice for everyone to have their camera on, so it's not like you don't know who's
yeah.
watching, and it's all very like intimate with each other, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, to invite like more vulnerability and intimacy and like yeah, create that space. Yeah.
yeah. But one thing I had for a structure was like you say, my friend was giving me some advice about. I think he did a men's group before, and it was having just that space where first of all we start with like just like a meditation coming together and sharing the being, and then
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing is being able to listen to each other without judgment or even having to have an answer to anyone else, but actually just saying what you're going through or what you're facing, what you're loving,
Hmm.
what you're enjoying, but that ability of that day or that weakness. But no one has to comment on it, right? It's not
Hmm.
like we sort it out. It's actually just a space for them to do that. And then afterwards, we could
Hmm.
always go into a bit more teaching about like, okay, in this situation, what beliefs can we surrender? What can, but
Hmm.
not to anyone. It's like together as
Hmm.
a circle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's powerful, I think, because it's just yeah, like a space to be able to um things that probably have also been locked up in the psyche as like me, like this is my
Mm.
thing that I need to hide from the world. And it's like, hey, and like you said, that like not a need to immediately respond to it or comment on it, but just be like, just go, just like kind of bring it out, and then yeah, you know, who knows what comes after that. You can like discuss or have a talk. But yeah, that really feels like a good way to do it. Yeah,
Completely, brother.
yeah,
But that's what it felt like, just powerful space.
yeah, yeah. That's
All right.
beautiful. Well, I'm glad you're doing that.
Um, and I'll keep you updated as well. And let's get back in touch about any future stuff. If just keep in open conversation with any projects that we want to collaborate on as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I definitely want to find ways to kind of yeah expand on this. So let's keep the lines open for sure.